Okay, here we are with at least my efficient way of filling up a rack of containers. There are probably other efficient ways, but this is the way that I found it to be efficient for me anyway. So you want to have your containers lined up in the racks. You want to have an extra rack with no cones in it. All of this stuff should be on a tarp because it will get a little bit messy with soil. I mix up about 4 parts of soil to 1 part of perlite, and that's what your mixture looks like. I mix this up in a 5-gallon bucket, and eventually the goal is to get this soil into these pots over here, and not only into the pots, but eventually what we're also looking for is sort of not to have extra soil kind of in the interstitial spaces between the cone pots here. Okay, so I'll try and set this up on automatic and we'll get going. Okay, here I have a 5-gallon bucket of soil and I need to get it into these pots here too. So I'm just gonna kind of start pouring right here. This is, again, it's messy and it's kind of coarse, but we're catching all of the soil on the tarp here, so we don't have to worry about being too messy. What I am trying to do is to try and get most of the pots, most of the way full, using this startup here. And so we'll go with that to start with. But you get the idea here. I'm going to use my hands, break up some of the clods or get rid of them if they're just too much of a hassle, and push soil into the pots. Well, just kind of work a little bit rough at this point. I have about as much soil as I think I'm going to need here, kind of stacked up on top of the pots. What I'm going to do is use my hands here to try and level it out a little bit. There's definitely some pots that might be a little over full, but as you'll see in a second here, most of them are likely under full to some extent, because once you get it set like this, I like to give it a few pops, and what you'll see is that the soil drops down. You want it to, I like to have them about 75 to 80% full. You don't want them full all the way to the top. And as you can see here, there are some cones that don't have enough soil in them. So what I'll do is, grab some soil here and fill up the ones. It's, always the ones around the edge that are the culprits. Again, you don't want them too full, but you definitely don't want them too empty, because our volunteers will then start trying to put plants in pots with not enough soil, and that causes problems. So here you try and top them off here, and then the next step, and this is a little bit of a pain in the neck, but this is going to be important because we kind of want to make sure that there's not a lot of extra soil stuck on the racks in between the pots. Hopefully you can see this soil right in here. You see that stuff right there. We don't want that there because it'll end up just getting all mucky. Eventually it'll get infected with fungus or bacteria or something. And as the summer goes along, it reduces the quality of the environment where the plants are growing. So that's why I feel like it's just easiest to transfer all the cones from one rack into a free rack like this. We'll deal with all that excess soil, and you can see there's quite a bit here. So it's not, we're going to want to be able to use this soil as opposed to having it useless sitting around on a rack all summer long. So this takes a few minutes, but you learn to be efficient with it, and pretty soon we'll have them all filled up. There we go. So we have this rack here. It's all full of soil, maybe 1 or 2 that need a little bit extra. We can fix that. You can see all this extra soil here is something that we won't have to deal with. So I'll move this one out of the way. Dump this soil down here. We'll get that back in the bucket, and then we'll move on to the next one. So figure out an efficient way to cycle through and get soil in all the container pots, so that when our volunteers start doing the repotting, it's nice and efficient for them. That's the end of our lesson.